Aloha everybody. E komo mai. Come on in. Maverick Mike here. We have a bit of a different project here today, doing a father-daughter project on a recovered piece of furniture, and my daughter had to leave for a few months. So what I'm going to do is temporarily stop the project, but what I've decided to do is put a temporary cover on that using the Shou Sugi Ban method of wood burning and some sidewalk chalk. So let's get right on into it. We found this piece and we purchased it for a few dollars, and come to find out it looks like koa wood, so it's really a nice piece of furniture. So we resized this thing and we've gotten to this point, but my daughter had to leave. So what I want to do very temporarily is to just put a cover on this thing so that we can actually use it and I can put it in the house and we can protect it until my daughter gets back, because if it stays in my shop, well, you guys know what happens. So anyway, I found this piece of old plywood in the yard. It is really rough. It looks like, I don't know, 3/16 piece of plywood. It was just on the ground. Grass was growing up through it. It was really nasty, but it was big enough to make this cover. So I figured, okay, why not? Why not just make a temporary cover on this? I got some old scraps, cut them down to size, and all I did was use the pin nailer and put it together just to make it usable until my daughter gets back, and then we can continue this project over here, making this river table an experiment, Shou Sugi Ban burn, and then afterwards I'm going to dust in some sidewalk chalk and gently brush it in, and then after that I'll seal it. Alright, so I just brought this piece out into my backyard to our fire pit, and I have not done this before, so we're going to take it kind of slow. Plus, this plywood is extremely old. It was in an old panel van that I had years ago, and still have, but it was the lining for the van, so it's just kind of been sitting out in the backyard for many years. It's dry, and it may go up pretty fast. So I'm going to be careful with this thing. But the question is, should I do a light burn or should I do a heavy burn? And since I'm going to be using sidewalk chalk dust, I think I want a kind of a heavier burn. So I'm going to see if I can alligator out a little bit so that when I sprinkle the dust on there, it will go down into the cracks and I can kind of brush it in a little bit and see if that actually comes out and does anything. Who knows? Like I said, this is just an experiment and it's just for fun, and this is just very temporary. Trying to get that nice deep alligator finish so that the sidewalk chalk dust can set down in it, and then I can put some kind of a clear coat over it because no one wants to handle a dirty mess like this. So a couple of observations. I had better results torching with the grain than against the grain. If you have any imperfections in your wood, this burning will certainly bring them all out. Like I said, this is an old piece of wood with holes in it and all kinds of things. I had a little burn through right here from a really big hole that was there, and you can see that the wood is cracking over here, and it was cracked before this process happened, but that burning really brought out the defects in the wood. So whatever kind of defect you have, it will be magnified. So there is some ash on the top that I think I'd like to gently remove. You can remove the top layer a couple of ways. One is with a wire brush going with the grain. But I'm going to use a kind of a soft nylon brush here. I just want to remove some of the ash. I want to leave all of the deep scoring and all of the deep cracks that the fire exposed. But I do want to remove a little bit of the ash. So I'm going to just gently this soft nylon brush it away. I'm really not using any weight on the brush. I'm not forcing it. It's just the weight of the brush going across the top of the wood, because I believe it's very delicate and I want to preserve all these cracks, all these crevices, all this alligator effect. It's really kind of cool. Another observation is that this was a really old piece of plywood. If you use a newer one that's not so ancient and practically hard as a rock, you might get better results. Sure, you'll get better results with a thicker piece as well. Like I said, this was an old piece laying out in the yard for years, so I just decided to do this experiment with it. Also, I observed that on the sides, that was new pine from another project. I just had some scraps and I just cut them down. That burnt much more nicely than the plywood did. And I'm not sure if it's just because it was a solid piece of wood versus plywood, or whether it was due to the age and dryness and brittleness of this plywood. Anyway, now that I'm retired, I can play and do things like this. I have time, so it's really kind of nice. Okay, this is by no means perfect. There's lots of little things sticking up and all that, but what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and grind up some sidewalk chalk dust, sprinkle it on here, and try to gently brush it in with a paintbrush. And then after that, we'll put a polyurethane, water-based polyurethane clear coat on top of it, just to make it nice to handle. It has some really nice color, some really nice effects when the sunlight is shining on it, so I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick that up. But anyway, to continue on, I happen to have red and blue marking chalk, and I also have found this piece of green kids sidewalk chalk, which I'm going to go ahead and grind up, and maybe I'll do some kind of a rainbow thing, red, green, blue, red, blue, green, something like that. And I'll put it over the various areas, and I'll try to brush it in, and then we'll see what it looks like after we put a clear coat on it. Alright, I've finished grinding up that chalk. This green chalk actually made kind of a nice color, kind of a mint green, really nice. And so now we're just going to try and spread this stuff out in lines, something like red, green, and blue. Maybe coming along, I don't know, straight or coming along at an angle. Not sure which yet, whatever the mood strikes. Well, let's go ahead and do that. And let's just kind of gently brush this in. A little bit more down in here. I'm really not putting any pressure on this brush, just the weight of the brush, and I'm just letting it kind of catch what it catches and move what it moves, and that's it. This side I'll leave it a bit heavier. That side lighter, see how it comes out. Evaluate those different effects. Alright, let's go with some green. And let's see what this does. The marking chalk out of the bottle is ground more finely than I was able to grind the green. So the green is coarser. Let's see if we can blend just a little bit as we go along. Just a slight blend. The green over the red, I think. Let's finish up with some blue. Let's put a little blue up in this corner too. And let's see how that looks. See if we can get a bit of a blend going. I may be doing a little bit of brushing against the grain, but mostly I'm going with the grain, trying to work it in there a little bit. Okay, how does this look in the camera? Looks kind of interesting. A little heavy right in here, but that's because of the grain of the wood right here. It's really, really deep and separating. the top layer was separating from the next layer down, so kind of makes it look a little interesting. All right, I happen to have this Varathane Ultimate Polyurethane water-based, and I thought about using that, but then I saw that I had an extra one of these partly used, and I thought, why not just use this up? This is an acrylic enamel clear coat. So, we'll see how this goes. Okay, let that go off for a few minutes. We're back for a second coat. A little bit heavier this time. What I really wanted to do is spray something on here first, so that if I put on the polyurethane, I just wouldn't brush the chalk out of the crevices and kind of make a mess. Although that might be a cool effect too. But with this, I'm just trying to lock in the chalk wherever it happens to be sitting. So I'm going to let this dry, but my initial impression is that the blue has faded significantly along with the green. The red is coming through the best so far, and it actually looks pretty cool down inside all those alligator skins. I may come back after this is dried and put a second application of blue and green and then try another clear coat and see if we can get a little more stronger color to come out. I just don't think I put it on thick enough, or I blended it too much and it's just kind of fading into the wood more than I wanted it to. It actually still looks really nice. I can see the blue, I can see the green, but I would like it to be a little bit stronger color, a little bit more fun. All right, it's been about 10 minutes. I'm just going to come back and put some more on here. Kind of down at an angle a bit. Hopefully I can get this green to come through a little more. So once again, this is just kids' sidewalk chalk. I'll see if I can jam it into the spaces a little bit better. Instead of just kind of brushing it, let me try to jam it in. Put quite a bit on there this time, so let me try and recycle some of this. Let's do a little bit of a blend. And let's do some more blue. I don't know how long I've had this marking chalk in my toolbox. Probably 15 years. Shows how much woodworking I do. But now that I'm retired, looking forward to doing a lot more because I really like it. Okay. Let's try to bring out more of this blue color here. Maybe I'll overpower it and do too much. We'll find out. Alright, let's see if we can get a bit of a blend in the green and the blue. Just smooth it out a bit. A few blue streaks in the green. And a little bit more blue up here, where that one disappeared. Just don't think I put enough. I will put more if I ever do this again the first time around. Make it a stronger color because it just kind of fades into the background and blends in, and you can see just a tint, but I was going for a little more than just a tint. Just a few little streaks here and there. That's cool. Okay. Okay, I just want to use this to lock things in place, and we'll see how it works. Ooh, that's popping pretty nice now. How's that look in the camera? The sun is glinting right off the board, so it's a little hard to see. But I'll try to get some better lighting in a few minutes here. Alright, this lighting should be a little bit better for you guys. Kind of an overall picture. I'm going to zoom in a moment. But you can see there's lots of alligator skin, lots of cracks that chalk has just nestled into. And it's just starting to pop. I have enough of a clear coat on there just to hold it in place. Now I'll probably follow up with that polyurethane that I showed you earlier. A couple of coats on that, just to see if it can bring out more of a pop, more depth. And then we'll take it from there. So let me zoom in over here. And you can get a bit of an idea what this thing is actually going to look like. Sorry, I'm trying to be smooth here. Okay, let me try to lock it in right here, and I'll try to zoom in some more. Alright, this is about as close as I'm going to get as a zoom effect, but you can see the chalk filled the valleys of the alligator skin quite nicely, and it has quite a nice effect. My sun just went away, so it's going to appear darker, but so there's some blue, blue-green fade, green, then a red-green fade, and then a blue again. So I'm going to come back, and after this is dry, I'm going to come back and put a couple of coats of polyurethane on there, and we'll see what the final thing looks like. Alright, it's been an hour and a half. Everything is dry to the touch. And it just soaked in because this is so rough. So I'm just going to put a second coat on. If I ever do this again, I'm not going to use an old piece of wood like this if I'm going to do it for real. And once I have it sealed, then I would probably just float it in some epoxy resin and call that good. But anyway, second coat going on here. And this will be my last coat. I know I should put maybe 3 on as a minimum, but this is not an end user piece. This is just an experiment to see how the chalk would work, and so far I'm pretty happy with it. Now this is my first effort at doing this, and I know that there's specific things that you can buy, specific wood dyes and things of that nature and other stains that you can use, but I hadn't seen that anyone used chalk yet, and I had chalk. And I thought, well, why not just try it? Do an experiment, see how it comes out. And it was actually really easy to work with. Plus, the chalk is very inexpensive. I don't know what it would cost compared to the dyes and the more professional level things, but I'm sure it's a very significant difference. So, but anyway, if you can make Shou Sugi Ban look really cool with just chalk dust and some clear coats, why not? Okay, we're just going to finish up here and call it a day. Alright, it's dried overnight, and here we are the next day in the sunlight. And we just wanted to take a quick look at this. This has only 2 coats of the polyurethane on it, and I'm not going to be putting any more. Like I said, this is just a temporary cover and an experiment that I did. So, it's an overall view of this. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. And I'll move this around a bit. Alright. Let's do a little bit of a pan here. Just take a look. I'm pretty happy with the way the chalk looks right now. I'm pretty happy with the way it sunk down into the cracks and crevices of that alligator skin. Let me try to move the camera some more. Alright, so pardon the shakiness, I am doing this freehand right now. And we just want to take a look at the wood, the alligated surface, the color of the chalk within the wood, the blending, and the texture. Once again, this was a really old piece of wood, dried out, holes, oh my goodness, practically petrified, grass growing through it. It's been out in the yard for many years. However, that Shou Sugi Ban technique with the burning really made it very interesting. I kind of like the way that I was able to blend the colors, and it was really easy. It was just dry powder. In the future, I may try some experiments with chalk where I use it wet. I may soak it in mineral spirits or acetone, mix it up really good, see what kind of dispersion we get with that. But working with it dry like this was really easy. And I really like the effect. Let's see if I can get any closer to this. At some point my camera's autofocus will stop working here because I get too close. Kind of the blend there. A few little streaks of blue. And the green blending into the red. And then the red. This was kids, once again, this was just kids' sidewalk chalk and line chalk. So the green that I used was not as fine as the red and the blue. If I had used sandpaper, I probably would have been able to get the green powder much finer. But it still turned out pretty good. Okay, back away from this. And once again, an overall shot. All right, so the next step is I'm just going to go ahead and sand the table that this is going to go on, and I'll put a couple of coats of polyurethane on that to seal it, and then I'll just stick this on top of that. And once I'm done with that, I'll show you the final result. So this is now the front view of our recovered nightstand, which we had to resize, including the drawer. And when we got this thing, it was all beaten up. I didn't even realize that it was koa wood. Some artist at some point in time made this beautiful hand carving of banana leaves. And when I was working with it, I could really see the chisel marks. Some artist, I wish he had signed it or she signed it, because it's just a beautiful piece. But when I got it, it was covered in multiple coats of probably latex white paint. And I thought it was plastic at first. And after removing all those coats of white paint, this beautiful koa wood nightstand that you see was revealed. So we're really happy to find this. We found this at a like a secondhand store, a thrift store, and I think we paid about $5 for this thing. So this is the side view of the river table. We're not done with this yet. When my daughter gets back a couple months from now, we're going to sand this thing down and do an epoxy pour. And this pour will contain various broken pieces of glass and river rocks and rocks from the yard and sand from our local beach. And I'm excited to see how it comes out and how she decides she wants it to look. And so now we're just going to put this temporary top on. Like I said before, I'm not really worried about this top. It's just a very temporary thing to protect the table until my daughter gets back. So alright, so there it is. I'll make a separate video for the making of this table. I'm not a woodworker, but we've had an awful lot of fun doing this, and we've been doing it together, which is the most important thing. Aloha and a hui hou.